Kevin Coelho. It's been a hard-fought couple years, but I am so excited to tell you that Disney has finally stopped fucking Pixar. How's that make you feel?
Really good. And now Pixar, it's your moment to like show up or shut up. You know what I mean? You got to get those big numbers and you can get the fuck out. This is your chance, Pixar. Don't fuck it up.
Don't fuck it up, everybody. Of course, this is Kinda Funny's Pixar in Review, where we rank, recap, and review every single Pixar film. Of course, I'm Tim Geddes, and I'm joined by It's Christmas in June, Joey Noel.
Hello.
The big dog, Kevin Coelho.
What up, dude?
And the producer / seducer, Nick Scarpino.
Tim, let's do it. To infinity
and beyond. Oh, wait.
Wait, you got to go over this way. Yeah, we're here. Here we go.
Yeah.
Ready?
Yeah. Say it again.
To infinity
and beyond.
Really fucking hurts, you know, Joey?
It's worth it. It's worth it, everyone.
He and I are wearing matching shirt and hat.
Yeah, together we make one whole human.
Joe, we got this too. You know, Andy's not feeling well, so he's not on the show today.
Let me tell everyone the truth here. Let me tell everyone the truth here about where Andy is. Andy ordered some takeout food. Opened the container. Food. Snake right through his mouth into him. We're trying to get it out right now. We're going in. Yeah, right through his mouth. There's a doctor with one of those little like barbecue forceps trying to get that snake out of him right now, and it's going to be a struggle, ladies and gentlemen. But he'll be back next week.
Forceps. That was a good pull.
Thank you. Oh, that was a good joke right there too, Joe. Good pull.
Didn't mean to do that.
I love it here at Kinda Funny. Of course, if you love it, you can watch this show on youtube.com/kindafunny or roosterteeth.com. If you want to get it as a podcast, search your favorite podcast service for Kinda Funny in Review, and we'll be right there for you. If there is a movie franchise that you love or hate, chances are we have talked about it potentially multiple times, including our rewatches like we're doing for Thor right now, leading into Thor Love and Thunder. Our Thor 1 rewatch is live now. Next week and the following weeks, we will be doing Thor, The Dark World, Thor, Ragnarok, and then Thor Love and Thunder. Could not be more excited for all of that to varying degrees, if I'm being honest. But today, we're talking about Pixar. You can get the show ad-free and live as we record it by going to patreon.com/kindafunny, just like our Patreon producers, Molecule, Gordon McGuire, Fargo Brady, and Pranksy have done. We appreciate all of you so much. Today, we're brought to you by Athletic Greens and Shopify, but I'll tell you about that later. For now, let's just get right into it. We're talking about Lightyear with a runtime of 1 hour and 40 minutes. It came out on June 17th, 2022, marking the return of Pixar movies to theaters. The last couple have been exclusively on Disney+. This is Pixar's 26th film. It was directed by Angus MacLane, an American film director, animator, screenwriter, and voice actor currently working at Pixar. He directed the short films Burn E, Toy Story Toons Small Fry, and the television special Toy Story of Terror. He co-directed the film Finding Dory in 2016. And a fun little fact here, he's also a Lego enthusiast and created the Cube Dudes building format and designed a Lego Wall-E that has been an official Lego set from the Lego group. He'll make his feature film debut with Lightyear. That we just watched.
That's pretty cool.
It is pretty cool. It is. Creative guy, this Angus MacLane. The music was done by
Michael Giacchino.
Michael Giacchino, baby. Fuck yeah, you'll love to see it. This movie had a budget of $200 million and a box office of a whole bunch of question marks. It just came out. The numbers aren't in yet, but I imagine it's going to do pretty damn well. While we're talking about box office, I just want to give another major shout out to one Tom Cruise for just continuing to break his own records. And Top Gun Maverick is just climbing to that Billy mark, and you'll love to see it. You'll love to see it.
This most successful movie he's made ever, right?
Fuck yeah, it is, man. God, that's cool as hell. Good. Anyways, any excuse to talk about Maverick, I'm going to. But today, we're talking about Lightyear. I want to start with Joey. What did you think of Lightyear?
I'm pretty torn on it. It reminds me a lot of like Ad Astra for kids, which I think is kind of cool, where it's just like space adventure, but I think it was missing like a lot of the heart that I'm usually expecting from a Pixar movie. I think Chris Evans is great. I think the voice acting is great. I think the story and like the big lesson from it fell a little bit short for me, which I was kind of bummed by. I will say I'm also like not really like a huge Toy Story girl in terms of like my favorite Pixar franchises. So I don't know if that has to do with it, but I ended up liking it more than I thought I would based on my Toy Story-ness, but it's missing the heart of Toy Story, which I think is kind of key. But I get why it is, because it's a weird in-universe story thing. I think in that case it makes sense, but not personally what I'm looking for from a Pixar movie.
Nicholas.
No, Joe, I don't think you're wrong, and I don't think it's because it's an in-world movie. I think the movie is very, very good. I think it's beautifully made. I think the cinematography in it is stunning, and the actual animation itself and the detail of the animation is really, really, really cool. There was one moment where when Buzz is trying to break the sound barrier, he goes and touches something on his control console, and just the distressedness of the ships as the time keeps going on and all that stuff, I thought was just... It was so expertly done. I mean, these guys are masters of their craft, or the teams over at Pixar, all of them are masters of their craft. But I'm with Joey where this one kind of was one of the Pixar movies that kind of feels paint by numbers, where you're starting to see a little bit of the formula. And normally, obviously, listen, movies are formulaic and Pixar is great at them, and I'm not criticizing that at all. But generally, what I look for in a Pixar movie is that they nail that formula and give me something a little extra, right? They try to imbue or infuse something that I haven't seen before in it. And this one just doesn't have that. It's not to say I wasn't thoroughly enjoying this movie from start to finish. Like I said, I loved it. But the production design alone and the cinematography alone is worth seeing it. Chris Evans does a great job. All the supporting cast does a pretty good job as well. But I just feel like when I got out of it, I walked away and I was like, that was pretty cool. And I'm probably never going to think about Lightyear again. And that's not what I'm used to when I think about, some of my favorite Pixar movies. Like when I think about The Incredibles, for instance, which I know you guys are kind of like put a little bit lower on the list, but I love that whole series. And I think that's a perfect example of, movies that are sort of paint by numbers superhero movies, but give me a little bit something extra and give me something else to hold on to. When I walk away, I'm like, that did have what Joey was talking about, which is a lot more heart than I think this movie was trying for it. I just don't think they quite nailed it. And we'll get into some of those specifics as to why that happened a little bit later.
Kev.
So I want to start by saying I really enjoyed it. A lot of the comedic beats, if not all of them, really hit hard. I mean, that cat is just Socks. He's so good.
I can't wait to hear Nick's thoughts about the cat.
He's so good. And I enjoyed it. It is interesting because this movie definitely feels like Pixar's, I don't know if it's the first attempt, but like it seems like they were trying to put together like an action movie with some heart and some thought into it. But I mean, I liked it. I also don't think it hits the highs of previous Pixar movies, but like I think it's still fun and really great.
Tim, what do you think?
Yeah, very in line with you guys. I think that this is the most really good Pixar movie we've gotten so far, where there was nothing that I didn't like about it. There's just some things that I was like, okay, cool. It's good. It's just not like kind of blowing my mind in any way. I think the opening of it, the framing of in 1995, Andy watched a movie. This is that movie. It's like, that's perfect. I think that kind of enhances it so much. And there was multiple times throughout watching it that kind of framing made me enjoy the movie more, where I kind of out of it thinking like, oh my God, imagine being this little boy watching this movie. Like, that's so cool. And I think that they nailed that kind of meta-ness and made it kind of enhance the experience of what the story they were trying to tell is, and the characters and all that stuff. To Nick's point about the cinematography, like I am just so blown away at how often watching this movie, I forgot it was animated. Like it is presented as if it's a live action movie. And I think that is so cool that the animation's gotten so high quality that obviously they're stylized cartoon characters or whatever, but they don't act that way or move that way. And it doesn't look that way. Especially when you start seeing the exterior shots and like the vistas and everything. It's like, it is very damn impressive. And it's cool to look at Lightyear and look at an MCU movie, like let's say Thor: Love and Thunder. At this point, what really is the difference between live action and animated, with how much animated things are in superhero movies and how much kind of like just realistic as shit looking vistas are in this Pixar movie. So I think that that's a really fascinating thing. And I think that because of that, I start to grade it against more action movies, and I start to grade it against other similar things. And I think that's kind of where this hits that good level and doesn't ever really get to excellent, because it has those moments of the Pixar heart. I cried. I did. Like we all saw it coming, and it's like, oh, they're doing that interstellar thing, and then they just did, and it pulled the strings, and it made me feel, congratulations, Pixar, you did the damn thing. But I feel like they did it in a fairly easy way. And that's not to say that they shouldn't have done it. I'm happy they did, because it did give the rest of the movie like context. But I think that, and I'm going to be such a broken record here, but it's like having just seen Maverick and then Top Gun Maverick and then seeing this, it's hard to not be a little bit like, okay, that was cool, but like, I wish that they kind of upped the ante a bit. But I did appreciate the montage in the beginning of setting the stakes and having to go around the sun and through the things. Like, cool they did a good job. Yeah, very cool looking. I was never bored in this movie. I was never questioning why things were happening, all that. Like, it is really, really good. I am not totally in line with Kev about the comedy. I think that was probably my least favorite thing about this, where there was a lot of things that made me laugh. I thought Socks was fantastic in everything he did. I was so in on. But I think some of the supporting characters, the jokes were a little off sometimes. I didn't like the directions of go south and stop at the red light. Like, it just kind of felt a little less Pixar and more like the Disney type of comedy.
Yeah.
Overall. But I think that the biggest thing for me was there were some things that I was like, the jokes or the writing where it's like supposed to start as a joke, but then turn into like a more meaningful thing. I don't think they totally stuck the landing on. An example being we'll finish each other's sentences. That joke plays throughout the whole movie, and it's supposed to be this like character growth moment. And then there's that turning point where like she is finishing his sentences for like the most obvious things. And I feel like that was supposed to be a moment. And it just there was a transition from joke to serious that I don't think they quite nailed. But having said all that, like it ending, I was like, that was a damn good time. You know, I left being like, oh, I like this way more than I expected it to, despite it being very low on my Pixar rankings overall. But again, that's a testament to Pixar. Nicholas.
Tim, you hit a point that I wanted to talk about before we get into the plot. And one of it was just the style of the genre of the movie and the style of the movie. And I think sitting in there, I think the humor for me didn't hit, especially with the team as well, because I think there is a little bit of a disconnect between the beginning of the movie, the middle of the movie, and sort of like the end. The beginning is kind of a deep sci-fi film, and it's really cool. And I was like, oh wow, this movie is going to be a lot more adult and like closer to an Ad Astra or an Interstellar than I would have ever expected a Pixar movie to be. And that was really cool. But by the time we get to the quote unquote moments where we're supposed to have humor, I'm like, I think that these two styles are fighting against each other instead of working with each other. And this is no disrespect to Taika Waititi, because normally you put Taika Waititi in something and sign me the hell up. But I thought his character and the criminal character, I'm like, I'm not vibing with this team and the chemistry in this team. I understand why they decided to throw the team together, but I almost wish it was just a bunch of kids that Buzz Lightyear had to be like in charge of. Because I feel like his chemistry with Izzy was what the heart was. And every time, don't get me wrong, the pen joke was funny and it had obviously a payoff that we all saw coming. But I feel like all they gave Taika Waititi to do in the background was play with a pen. And I'm like, we could have done something else with this. I also think that his chemistry with Socks might be the best thing that anyone's ever put on screen. And so it's obviously everything's going to pale in comparison to that, because all the creativity that went into Socks, the fucking blow dart. It's just the fact that instead of using the actual sound effects, and I forget the actor's name, but he's one of the directors from some of the other movies. I think Peterson. No, it's Peterson.
Peterson.
That he's doing the sound effects.
It's so good. I lost it when he started.
Funny. It's so funny and so good. And so when you have that chemistry, that's great. And then you have the chemistry that's not quite as good with Izzy, and then you got the other two side characters that I just felt were kind of weighing it down a little bit, and they were obviously thrown in there as comic relief, because otherwise, you know, the visuals of this movie, especially when we see Izzy for the first time in that dope ass like anime style armor, and I'm trying to think. I want to say it's like not Full Metal Alchemist, but like Appleseed. It looks like Appleseed or like one of those old school like animes from back in the day. I'm like, this is a pretty intense look. everything in this film is intense. The bugs, the vines that I thought were going to be like, I thought I was going to drag them down and we were going to discover this whole city and everyone's going to live in harmony. No, it just turns out there's vines in this world that are trying to kill people the entire time, and there's no conclusion for that whatsoever.
No, it's just
all that stuff's really, really, really intense. And so when you have that zany Pixar style humor, it doesn't hit the same way as it does with an Incredibles, where everything is softened and over exaggerated and over stylized, and like Incredibles has that vibe of like a bygone era mixed with now, and it's Bond and anything can happen and it's fun. Whereas this is like, oh wow, they're stranded on this planet, and I'm pretty sure the conclusion of this is they're stranded on this planet forever, which no matter how you paint it is still kind of sad. I mean, obviously Buzz realizes, oh, this is our life now, but anytime a character says, well, this is my life now in a movie, it's not the most positive thing ever. So I think kudos to Pixar for trying to do something a little bit more intense in sci-fi, but having to put that Pixar charm into it, I think works at odds with itself.
I think a lot of the like side team humor not working, it almost feels like they were like, oh, we cast Taika Waititi, so like it's fine. It kind of feels like Jeff Goldblum-y of like, we have this character actor, he's gonna carry it, but they didn't really give him like a ton to work with. So it feels like the only reason we like that character is because it's Taika, and not because the character's actually
pretty much, yeah. And they know that, right? The second he opens his mouth, I'm like, okay, it's Taika, so we're on for this ride. But again, I just think the chemistry there wasn't there, unfortunately. And then we spent a lot of time with that team. Which sucks, and especially since the moment that really hit, the only real hype moment or a moment of real emotion for me was when he comes back and he finds the room empty, and it's just that bit of visual storytelling right there tells you everything you need to know about that moment. And I started tearing up right there. I'm like, oh, he finally came back the last time, and she's not there anymore, and it's really sad. I really liked the first. What's that, Kev?
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say that's kind of what I meant on like it feels like they made like an action movie, in where it's also kind of casted like an action movie, and maybe the story's not as there as we'd want it to be or expect it with a Pixar movie, because like that, like having Taika be that character, and that character really only having a couple like fun, like the pen really was the only thing he had, and when he throws the, like, it wasn't a spear, it was harpoon, and it's like those are the only moments, and it does seem like that character exists because of the cool casting they got, and it just kind of seems like a waste and a kind of a bummer.
Yeah, it's funny though, because I think back and I'm like, the moments of this movie that I really wish they'd explored more, and obviously this is just me because I love sci-fi. I love the idea of him. I like the first like 30 minutes of this movie. Actually, I don't love the first 10 minutes. I love that middle 30 minutes when they're stranded and he has to keep doing this loop, and what that means for him, because every time he goes up, he gets more and more untethered from his life and from the reality of the life that these people are building. That is such a cool concept. And it gets explored every once in a while, but it's usually really deep sci-fi. It was obviously explored in Interstellar when we see Jessica Chastain growing up, and we have that one beautiful moment where he realizes his daughter, she's like, today was the day that you said you were going to be home and you're not here. Like, it's my birthday, right? And you're not here.
Well, I'm older than you are.
Yeah, well, that's right. I'm older than you were when you left. And it was like such a crushing moment for him. And we got that moment in this where he comes back and his best friend, his only friend really in this world, is gone. And she's lived this lovely full life where she found a wife and fell in love and had grandkids and kids and all this stuff. And so I'm like, that's really, really cool. And then it kind of turns into sort of a kind of a mid-level actiony movie. And then we get the reveal that Zurg is him in an alternate timeline, which I'm like, okay, we needed to flesh this out a bit more.
It's one of those things where I definitely pop for that. Like, that was a cool thing. Like, I obviously love the references to the old Toy Story stuff and the little things we've seen of having Zurg and like his wings coming out and all that stuff. That the final ship at the end is like the toy box from Toy Story. Like, all that stuff was great. It was great.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was kind of like, it felt. Part of me writes it off because it's like, yo, this is the coolest movie Andy's ever seen when he was like 5 years old or 8, whatever it was. And yeah, there's time travel and Buzz is himself from the future. And it's like, I can just imagine being a kid and this like fucking being the most insane cool thing in the world. But for being a 32-year-old man watching this now, I'm kind of like, okay, cool. You're aping Interstellar with this. You're aping this. You're aping that. And aping's fine when you do it great. And they did it great. Like, I got emotional from the Hawthorne bit and all that. But to then be like, oh, you can go forward in time or whatever, but you can also go back. And it's like, cool. That's how you explain it.
Yeah,
like,
you gotta tell me more.
That's it. All right, alternate timelines. Okay, cool. I guess you're just talking to a future Buzz and a future Socks, and we're just gonna just be okay with it. And that's always the problem with time travel and all that stuff. But I feel like they didn't do enough cool shit with the future Buzz to make that leap in logic feel like it totally sits right with me.
Yeah.
But not the biggest complaint. It's just kind of like, it's fine.
It works. It's just an interesting aspect of the movie that I wish that I would have liked them to have fleshed out a little bit more. But again, at the end of the day, this is supposed to be, I guess, a kid's movie. I mean, it's Pixar, so to call a Pixar movie a kid's movie is really do it a disservice, because obviously they write from such a deep level that it should appeal to everyone, and this did appeal to me to a degree. But that one moment I was like, oh, that's a pretty heady concept that we're just kind of 3 lines of dialogue there and a couple flashbacks and we're going through it. But okay, then we get the great beat with it was like with Taika Waititi having to pull the thing and blow up and I am giving up and all that stuff. I was like, that's pretty okay.
I think the other thing that like kind of made me on this movie, Buzz is like so attached, like figuring out how we get these people back and everything like that. And I feel like we're missing a piece of like other, like, I know it's because Buzz wants to finish the mission. This is what we do. We're space rangers. But I feel like we need more character motivation of like, is there something on Earth that he like, everybody else in his life is building these lives on this like base planet thing. And I don't feel like we need to finish the mission was like enough a motivation.
I think
for
there's
me
two parts to that. One is he caused it, right? Like,
to a degree, right?
No,
but
I think he could have. Like, I don't think he had to shoot himself out like that. I think he could have righted his ship and taken his time and gone up.
Well, but they kept flashing back to the fact that the kid was like, "Can I help?" And Buzz was like, "No, I can do this myself." And that was supposed to be the main sort of reason why he was haunted by this decision. But the kid's hanging off by a chair, can't even get to the control set. You're like, what the fuck was this kid gonna do? Yeah. What it needed to be was like, I think they needed to set that up a little bit better of like, because they have he's like, I don't need the autopilot on this. And obviously by the end of the movie, he realizes the virtue and benefit of having all these friends and the autopilot and accepting all of this help into his life to strengthen the team. And that just didn't quite hit as much. But Joe, you're right. Like, to me, I'm like, you saved everyone. Like, they were going to die. They were all going to get dragged into the underhell of this thing. The ship was going to collapse over, maybe explode. You at least got them out of that situation. So to be so hard on yourself for crashing this ship seems kind of crazy, especially when you've been in life or death situations before and nobody died. I don't know. It's like, I think it needed to be way more intense of how he fucked up for me to really feel that he like had that inner need to keep going on this journey.
Well, I think the second part of why he was trying to go back so much is because he can't be a ranger out here. Like, to keep the life that he had going, he had to find a way back.
So my question is he a ranger or is he a pilot? Because those two things, I know they're supposed to be the same, but the majority of this movie he spends being a test pilot, trying to break the sound barrier. And we know from Top Gun Maverick that once you're a pilot, you're always a pilot and you're only ever a pilot. It was just whatever. He was hyperspeed is what he was trying to get to, super speed.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because we only get to see him be a ranger for like 5 minutes.
Right.
And it's not a great scene when he gets chased back to the ship. And the rest of the time he's a test pilot. I'm like, why don't you just be a test pilot? I don't know. Seems pretty cool. Tim, what were you going to say?
Yeah, I'm right there with you guys, just extrapolating a little more on what Joey started talking about, the needing a little bit more ties to something on Earth or something outside of just the scenario we're in for this to be believable, because everything falling on him feeling like he fucked up and he wants to be a ranger, so that's why he's doing all this. It puts it a little at odds for the emotional stakes between his relationship with Hawthorne, where as an audience, we're watching it. I feel like it hit us because we are able to think about our best friends and think about losing them and the coming back and them not being there and all that. I didn't get the emotion from Buzz and like him going, like, we're looking at it like understanding the ramifications of every time you do this, like you're losing a lot of years. And I didn't get the vibe that he gave a shit about that. And like Hawthorne was always kind of there, and the way they presented it, it felt like they just had a moment together, and Hawthorne was kind of like, oh, hey, you're here, cool, bye, every time, as opposed to being like having some type of connection between them. So by the time she dies, I almost don't feel like Buzz had enough of a emotional response to that going forward. Like, it then just kind of felt like, oh yeah, we had the Pixar moment, so let's just get him back to the action. And I thought that was kind of a letdown, because I feel like they just needed something, a weight to it all to kind of get it all on the same path.
Especially when you consider, I mean, they tried to set it up with, they tried to give you the classic like bonding scene of these two friends who've been together forever, and they're in this life or death situation, and that's why being a ranger is so incredibly important to them. That didn't hit for me so much because I was like, it's fine, it is what it is, but the idea of like them being so hardcore ranger is sort of cut flat by the fact that Hawthorne's like, I'm just living this life now, man. I gave it up. I don't really care that much about it. But Buzz is like, we got to be ranger. She's like, you don't need to do that. Like, you're fine. That kind of undercuts the whole ranger emotion. But then also when you start thinking about it, like we all have best friends, right? We love these people. Could you imagine the emotional toll, how incredibly insane it would be for 4 days of your life to go by and watch someone go by 67 years of their life, and then you see them die? You go from I'm your good friend to 4 days later they have grandkids. That's crazy, right? And they don't explore that so much in this, and obviously it's a Pixar movie, but in a sci-fi movie that would have driven Buzz insane. Like that concept, we needed that Matthew McConaughey moment. Obviously we're not going to do that in a Pixar
breaking
movie,
down,
where
that would have been powerful,
with all these crazy emotions happening inside of him, fighting each other. He's so overjoyed to see his family, but then the concept of like, holy shit, so much time has gone by, I've missed our whole life, and like dad died and grandpa died rather. It was so like, we just didn't get that moment. He's like, oh, that sucks. And then we get a comedic beat with the new general's like, get out of here, and pushes her name off, and you're like, oh, I guess we're not thinking of Hawthorne anymore.
It's interesting because I feel like the last time we got like a montage kind of like that of time passing by is in Up, which hits kind of the opposite, where it hits so hard because that you can see so much emotion in it. And I agree. I feel like if they had we needed some conversation with Buzz and Hawthorne of like, you are like letting this all go like fly by, and you're missing out on so much of like our lives and stuff like that, and like we need you to like
we got
something like
a
that
little bit of it,
put some weight.
Right? Well, but it wasn't hard, and they didn't lean into it enough.
Yeah,
and the up thing was great though, because I think, you know, when you talk about Up, like the whole theme of Up was like finding another reason to live, right? I mean, that was Ellie was his whole purpose for being. He was his whole life, and he had given up. He wanted to go basically to this place that she went and die, really. And then this kid gives him a whole new lease on life, a whole new reason to live. And we sort of get that a little bit here, but the whole theme of this is supposed to be like, I guess it's like, forgive yourself for the past, let go, move on, and then also be a team member, like learn how to work as a team, which I was like, we didn't, that wore thin for me so fast, where I'm like, if it had been Tim Allen's Lightyear, and that's the other thing I want to talk to you guys about, right? This is not the same Lightyear as obviously the toy we find. And that can be explained in any single way you want. But Buzz Lightyear from Toy Story is completely zany. And that's what I thought this movie should have been, probably. It's like silly, right? Because when he's like, I could do this by myself, that character, Chris Evans' Lightyear, is so grounded in reality that him not realizing the virtue of having people around him to help him out with this thing starts to wear thin really, really quickly, and makes me question his ability to actually be a competent ranger in the first place. Whereas I think if it was Tim Allen, and he's just so cocky because he's just stupid, because he is that Lightyear, that kind of makes more sense. And then it's more forgivable that he's rude and mean to these people who are like his really only chance of surviving on this freaking planet.
Yeah. We are going to get into the plot and get into all the details of this. But before we do that, let me tell you about our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by Athletic Greens. I've been using AG1 the last few months because I figured it was well past time I start thinking about vitamins, but I'm usually not the biggest fan of their format. So being able to drink a flavored water is much more up my alley. And I'm a huge fan here of the fact that it doesn't taste super healthy. It kind of has like this mild tropical taste to it that I look forward to every morning. With one delicious scoop of AG1, you're absorbing 75 high quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. It's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just one scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/kindafunny. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/kindafunny to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. athleticgreens.com/kindafunny. This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Shopify gives entrepreneurs the resources once reserved only for big businesses to everyone. So upstarts, startups, established businesses, content creators alike can sell everywhere, synchronize online and in-person sales, and effortlessly stay informed. I love how Shopify has the tools and resources that make it easy for any business to succeed, from down the street to across the globe. Our content creator friends use Shopify to manage all their merch sales and stuff, and I recently got Gia a pair of Allbirds from the Allbirds website, which also uses Shopify. So that's an example of big websites using Shopify for their sales. You can gain insights as you grow with detailed reporting on conversion rates, profit margins, and to help you supercharge your knowledge of your sales and your success. You can go to shopify.com/KFgames, all lowercase, for a free 14-day trial, and you can get full access to Shopify's entire suite of features. Grow your business with Shopify today. Go to shopify.com/KFgames right now. That's shopify.com/KFgames for a free 14-day trial. Shopify.com/KFgames.
One thing to note is that Lightyear, I'm pretty sure the toy is based off the cartoon show that aired in real life. That is the cartoon show in the movie world as well.
Does that make sense why there would be a different voice actor?
Yeah. I mean, you know, when there's like an animated version of a movie, they use a different actor.
I don't think that's right. I mean, I think this movie.
Well, it starts with that. It starts with that title over screen that like he saw this movie and this was the movie that Andy watched. This is why he wanted the toy. But I don't know. I know that there was.
I think he just said stuff about like this is the movie that he watched. I don't know if it said this is why he wanted the toy, but I'm pretty sure. Like I know that the cartoon show that came out here is also the cartoon show that came out in their world. So
in the plot, ladies and gentlemen, it says a framing device. This is on Wikipedia, by the way. I didn't get a chance to write this down because they don't like when you light things in theaters. So I've learned. We kick it off. This is Lightyear. This is a framing device. Explains the film was a favorite of young Andy Davis, and that Buzz Lightyear toy he received in 1995 was based on
Is that his last name?
I guess.
Did we know that?
That's what
big
it says.
Reveals here.
Huge reveal. Also, I want to ask. Well, we'll get to it when we get to that. We kick it off. Buzz Lightyear.
Just one more thing. Is it weird that this is like this big like sci-fi movie in the world, and they make some like random kids toy based off of it? Like they don't make like Ad Astra toys.
Joey, of course you'll remember.
I think this is Star Wars.
Yeah, this would be like Star Wars for him.
Okay.
You'll remember Joey famously. They made all those Conan the Barbarian toys based off of Conan the Barbarian until they realized. And no one had seen the movie, and no one read the script, and no one knew that it was going to be a hard R movie that kids would not be allowed to see. And I think, if memory serves correctly, those toys went on to be the toys for He-Man.
That's correct.
Buzz Lightyear, a Galactic Ranger in Star Command, and his commanding officer and best friend Alicia Hawthorne explore the habitable planet Takana Prime. Habitable. That broke Kevin. With their new recruit, Featheringham Stan. I don't like this kid. This is right here. I was like, this is not working for me. What's your name? Featheringham Stan? I'm like, oh, guys. We
this is
also huge missed opportunity to not make this kid the grandfather of one of the kids or one of the team members that he has to eventually have. Because go ahead, Kev.
I was going to say, it's so weird that they just dropped this.
It's weird.
Like we don't see anything. I was like, oh, is this gonna be Zurg? And like that's how he's like, I always saw you as a father, leading to the joke in the second movie.
Similar to Spectrum, right? Where he's like, I was a young kid, a fan of you, and now I realize you're an asshole.
I did like the different colored Space Ranger suits that we got our first hint of here, and then get more later.
First off, vibing on that, my favorite thing, and I even turned to Andy and said this, I was like, every time he goes on another run, he wears a different colored flight suit because they've just changed the colors.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't notice.
It's like one time he's in orange. I think one time he's in blue, and another time he's in a different color. Just because like as the years have progressed, they've just changed
new outfits.
Then you're like, new outfits because the other ones wore out, which I think is
economy alive. You know?
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Anyway, they land on this planet, and Featheringham Stan, who was again, I can't hammer this home. You have a character that you're rude to who could have helped you save everyone, and you said no to that person, and it's haunted you, and is the pivotal and central portion of the theme of this movie. and you could have had that character's son help you later, or grandson help you later to help alleviate that stress and thus back up the theme, and you didn't do that.
No.
Why?
Or they could have made him like the old grandma, right? Because they had like an older crew member.
They could have made Feathering Henderson
the explosive expert.
Yeah, exactly. That could have been that character. But I digress. It doesn't matter. They are forced to retreat to their. They go out. They're exploring. Obviously, they get attacked by the vines. They get attacked by the bugs. They got to go run back to what they call the turnip, which I thought was kind of a funny thing. In doing so, the vines start dragging the turnip back down, and Buzz says, "I got this. Don't worry about it." And Alicia, his Hawthorne, his superior officer, is like, "No, you got to get help." Yada yada. He's like, "I don't want help from this. I don't want help from this stupid Ivan," which I think is a great acronym, by the way. Also, there's one of the little robots at the beginning of this has the same sort of not form factor but design aesthetic and coloring as Wall-E, which I thought was kind of cool. I don't know if that's by a lot of this. I was like, we're gonna talk about Wall-E at some point, and you guys, well, it's too low on the list or whatever. But I love that all those
Joey, shut your face.
But I love that all those little tiny touches are in this a little bit. Anyway, they go back, and Buzz, unfortunately, because he won't let anyone help him, he crashes the turnip, and they are stranded there forever. 1 year later, the crew have constructed a nascent colony. What a great
Very impressive.
This montage was so sick too. Of like seeing the wide shot and like seeing it kind of like build in the time lapse.
I love that little time lapse.
Now, of course, there's another Michael Giacchino scored movie that does that as well, which is Star Trek. And you see, I think it's in the Enterprise, where the Enterprise is getting built again, which is freaking awesome, and that's what gave me that vibe. I'm like, that's pretty cool. Let's see, the crew, they've constructed this colony along with the necessary infrastructure to conduct repairs. Buzz volunteers to test hyperspace fuel, a key component of repairs. However, I love the colors of these two as well, as they have to mix them and stuff. It's cool when they pull the button and it makes the crystal. But however, after a routine 4-minute test, he finds the 4 years have passed on Takana Prime. This sequence of him flying around the sun and not listening to the thing, but then like proving to everyone he actually knows what he's talking about. He is a good pilot, and he ejects the fuel cell as it explodes and punches him through these slowdown rings, which I think are the coolest part of this whole thing. Awesome sequence. Every time he's flying, it just reminds me of like the best of this genre. You've got it reminds me actually a lot of Maverick, but it also reminds me a lot of I think it was First Man was the movie with Ryan Gosling that was Damien Chazelle, where you're in the cockpit with him as he's trying to break the I think it was like the stratosphere barrier. He's trying to go as high as possible. Anyway, very, very cool. Buzz comes back. He's introduced to Socks, a robotic feline that is far and away the best character in this entire movie.
By so much. Peter Songe just is amazing.
When he goes, would you like to hear some whale sounds? And he's like, no. He goes, I can also do white noise. Okay, white noise. But I was thinking, they're going to cut to a white noise sound. No, it's Peter Songe
so much
going,
better. Yeah.
Dude, that was so funny. And it's you don't realize how much your life changes when like you get animals or kids or whatever. And me now having my 2 pups, like seeing these little like cute animals on screen has changed from me just being like, oh, it's a funny character, to me just finding so many just endearing moments in every single thing he does. And me and G were cracking up because there's so oftentimes we see an animal acting like an asshole or doing whatever, and it's like, oh, classic Moose behavior. It's rare we get the Toretto where it's like, oh, that is so Toretto. The way that Socks was walking, every little motion, it's like, it's fucking Toretto. They nailed it. And I just love that, the power of Pixar, like with that extra level of every frame of animation has some relatability to it.
The part that got me most was that you've got this hyper smart AI cat, but it's walking around like a normal cat would. And at one point, it walks on Buzz's foot. Yeah. You know how cats just have zero concept of personal space, and he just walks. And also, I love that he doesn't have digits, so when he types things, it's just the paws that do this.
It's so good.
Oh, it's so good. I take back everything I said about these 2 genres not mixing. The humor in this part, freaking great. Of course, as Buzz leaves, Sock says, "Is there anything I can help you with?" He goes, "Yeah, you got to figure out why this stuff's unstable." That might have been the second time he came back. We also get the dinner, where he cracks the dinner, and it's just the same disgustingness as before.
I thought that looked really good. I was like, I'd eat the shit out of that goop.
Yes.
Steak goop.
Of course, every time he comes back from this, he catches up with Alicia, who gets older and older and has moved on. She no longer wants to be It's not that she doesn't want to be a ranger anymore. She's just found other purpose in life. She's found love. She's had a son now. And then as he keeps coming back, we see the son get married and then eventually have the small little baby that will be Izzy later. And 62 years have passed until the final.
Also, finally, shout out, I guess, to Pixar. We finally get like an actual LGBT character.
Yeah, it's nice
in the movie.
It's good. Yeah.
And like, I know that there was like a lot of pushback, like Pixar, whatever team was working on this had to push really hard because Pixar tried to pull that storyline out. Yeah. And they fought really hard to get it back in. So good on those people that fought to keep their story the way that they wanted it.
That's very good. And I thought the relationship was great. I thought these, I didn't feel like it was shoehorned in or mistreated at all. And so I think that was really good on Pixar as well.
Hell yeah.
Where did I pick back? Oh, right. Of course. Then after 62 years, he comes back and finally finds the office empty. And we get the up moment where I'm like, well, the second he comes back, I was like, the music's changed. I'm about to cry. And then the door opens and it's just the box and it's been cleared out. And I'm like, gosh, she's dead. That sucks. And we get the wonderful moment of, her talking to him via the hologram, and they do the To Infinity and Beyond. And it's just so sad.
That was the thing. We all saw it coming, so it's just like, okay, we can prepare ourselves and we're gonna be okay through this, right? Like whatever. And then it was like, okay, it's going well. It's anytime now. It's gonna be the one she's not there, and then she's not there, and you're just like, oh, that got me. And then the Infinity Beyond thing, I was like, oh fuck, the tears are here. Like they broke me.
Let's see. Of course, Commander Burnside interrupts him, and he's like, and he has. Oh, but there's an important thing here. Buzz picked up a picture of them, the two of them, him and Hawthorne, from when they were younger, as they were Rangers, and that's going to come back to play later because older Buzz has that as well. He keeps that on his console, on his control console as well. After the test, Buzz finds that 22 years have passed, during which, sorry. I missed a couple things here. Buzz uses okay. So when he goes back, Sox is like, oh, by the way, I figured it out. And he's like, what did you figure out? He goes, well, you told me to figure out how to make a stable fuel source, and I figured it out. It only took 62 years, and I used this old school Nintendo Famicom or whatever this thing is to figure it out. It doesn't back
itself up anywhere.
I know, which is funny because I'm like, you're an advanced AI cat.
Did you not take a photo of it in the video that you're exactly. I'm sure recording?
Also, it's
you not plug your little tail into it.
Yeah, exactly. With USB tail, which is great. But it's a fun setup.
Unplugs and you're like, is he dead? Don't let him fucking die. I'll walk out right now.
One thing I do want to say is, like, from a story perspective, Burnside is not a bad character. He's the new commander, right? He's and he's like, listen, this is what we're all doing now. We're gonna put up a laser shield, which I thought at the end he's like, laser shield, hilarious. But he's not. This character needed to be an asshole, and he needed to be an unrelenting, unmovable. This is what we're doing, Buzz. You're no longer needed. We're throwing you in jail. There needed to be severe consequences for Buzz continuing along with this project. I don't buy that if Buzz hadn't taken one moment and walked into Burnside's office, had a cup of coffee with a guy and be like, listen, my cat figured out how to make this fuel source stable.
I think he doesn't need to say that part.
Right.
I think he'd just be like, we figured it out.
We figured it out. I don't buy, especially at the end where we find Burnside, I don't buy that he wouldn't be like, oh, awesome. Let's start right now. Let's figure that out. But instead, we go on this kind of outlandish and silly moment where he has to steal the ship back. And it's fun and it's all fun, but it leaves me as the audience member thinking, like, why don't you just stop and go talk to your commanding officer? Like, you're not a criminal yet. You're seen as a hero here to some degree. People know who you are. You still got juice. So, like, go over and talk to this guy and be like, listen, my cat, the Famicom, they figured it out over 62 years. I'd really like one more crack at this. And then if you don't want to move on from there, whatever, we can just put the laser shield up. But it seems like this environment's pretty horrible to live in forever. But I digress.
But I feel like
then we wouldn't have a movie.
That also gave us the cat, like, being like, oh shit, they're about to turn me off. I have to, like, go and be on this guy's side. And like, this is good. I really love that.
That was good. We also get, I think, the funniest moment in the entire thing when they're going over to the plane and they get caught by a security guard and Sox just opens his mouth and goes, ha! And the blow dart hits her in the throat. And he goes, was that for me? And he goes, I bought you 5 minutes.
And that coming really back later, so funny.
So funny with the future cat. Really, really funny. We go off, and he comes back, and now 22 years have passed, and the world of Takana Prime has been invaded by a force of robots led by the mysterious Emperor Zurg. Upon landing, of course, Buzz meets up with members with Izzy, who saves him. Love the armor here. Love that design of that. Kind of bummed they had to ditch that for the more, I'm not going to say classical styles of the Ranger armor, but obviously I vibe a lot more with like modern day anime armor than I do with Pixar armor, but whatever.
The moment you figure out, oh, they're building the suit, like, oh, he's got the laser. Oh, they're the laser eject
arm,
wings.
The wings,
and it's like, oh shit, the pen.
Was there a pen in the suit originally?
No, there wasn't. But
I like when I was like,
yeah,
that's there it is. Of course, they go over and they meet up with the colony's defense force, including Izzy, who is Alicia's now adult granddaughter, Mo Morrison, a fresh, naive recruit, and Darby Steele, an elderly paroled convict. While initially reluctant to work with them, Buzz eventually warms to them. So they got to go find another ship because the ship gets exploded. We give this whole action sequences with the one-armed alien robot, which I'm like, I think that's going to come back later, and it does come back later. This is where I'm like, oh, I'm not sure I'm feeling the chemistry of this group. Because the way they screw up here and the way they eventually overcome, there's just the components of the group just don't feel like they all mesh well together.
I feel like it's a perfect example of this and what we were talking about earlier of the montage. Like, I feel like this movie kind of, because it is such a generic action movie, generic sci-fi movie, and generic Pixar movie all at once, it's kind of like, well, the audience gets it. Like, they'll fill in the gaps, they'll understand what this is. And I think that we're just a little too smart, and we've talked about too many good Pixar movies to let that totally slide, even though it works. It just doesn't work in a way that feels fresh or special.
It needed, and this is literally my favorite scene in any Pixar movie, so it's like, obviously comparing it to this is difficult, and this is high marks if they can get anywhere close to it. But we needed the moment where all of the Incredibles come together in the forest, because Mr. Incredible's like, I don't want to work with any of you guys. I'm a lone person, because deep down he's like, I don't want my family to get hurt. And he even says that to Helen too. He was like, I can't lose you again. You understand that? And she's like, if we work together, you won't have to. And then we get that wonderful moment where Dash is right out of the thing and all that stuff. And then they come together and the music hits. I'm like, we never really get that here. We don't really feel that kind of chemistry here. They just sort of one by one become relatively competent. Also, it's kind of crazy that he's like, I got my team back here. And it's like, let's pump the brakes on that, because they're nice people, but I don't know how competent they are still, but whatever. It's a nice ending. Anyway, we go off on the ride. We got to go over and get the new ship, because the old ship got destroyed. The new ship's over in this cool mining area. We get that whole sequence where they get stuck in the cones of silence, and Buzz almost leaves them. But this is the first time he realizes it's better to work as a team. They all get together. Like we need your weight. We need you to help bust this thing.
I don't want to just be to nitpick, and I don't want to get just too negative, because overall I like this movie a lot, but I think that this scene, nitpick, there we go. This scene is just it's so like blah. It's so whatever. Like the scenario they're in, I'm like, at no moment was like, how are they going to get out of this? I'm interested in how they're going to like give us the great resolution. It's kind of like, all right, and I don't feel like any of the comedic beats were like really worth the time spent for this whole thing.
Yeah.
Again,
it's
not
conflict
world,
for the sake of the bit, but the bit's not good.
Yes.
I also just feel like at this point the inner struggle of Buzz Lightyear not wanting to work with other people is starting to wear thin. Yeah. I'm like, dude, come on. Like, you can't see the obvious fucking virtue of like, you got 3 people over here. You're like, why? Just get out of the room. Use them to get out of the room. It's not that hard. Anyway, they get out of the room. They go back to the ship. But before that happens, I think they get attacked by Zurg. They get the little quill they need, but they get attacked by Zurg. And Zurg's like, come with me if you want to live. And it's like, oh, maybe this guy's not too bad at all. But then in a weird beat, they're just behind him. They got down there somehow, and they blast Zurg up, and then they free him.
Love the Zurg. This is earlier that I'm referencing here, but I love the Zurg kind of reveal where you don't really see his face yet. You just see parts of him, and it's shot exactly like Darth Vader. Like, it's really kind of building up like this is Andy's Star Wars, and I think that's it was a wise call.
I also love the Zurg teleportation tech. I thought that was very cleverly used in the movie. It does make me think, hey, that's really, really, really impressive tech. Maybe we could figure out how to use that to get off this planet, but I digress.
There was a lot of future tech that they just blow up.
Where like we blew up this ship. I'm just throwing this out there. An interstellar ship that can go anywhere. We blew it up. Or we could have just piloted the ship back and be like, look, guys, I saved you after all. I got the ship that can take us off this planet. Am I fucking crazy in thinking that? I guess we needed the fuel source, but he used the fuel source to go back in time. It doesn't matter. Very cool stuff. Obviously, Zurg gets him. Zurg takes him up to the after an interesting action sequence that again didn't quite work for me when Darby or Darla, what's Darla's name? Is Darby? Is shooting rockets out the back. I'm like, this kind of fun, I guess. It should be a little bit more fun, but I'm having a good time. He gets caught by Zurg. Zurg takes him back up, and it is after.
Hold on to do an opposite of the nitpick thing there. I think that this little action sequence is very generic and very okay, but it looks so cool and it's so visually interesting that I think it was worth the bit. Like I think that they made the most of what they were giving us, and I was entertained by her shooting the rockets and all this, and how Zurg came in and like just the stakes of this whole scene.
But it's interesting because they were like, this is I gotta get the character's name. Darla, I think it is.
Darby.
Darby.
No,
Excuse me.
Darby.
Darby.
Darla's from Finding Nemo.
Darla's from Finding Nemo. That's the crazy niece, right? It's like, I'm gonna kill everything.
It's not what she says, but yeah.
They set it up that she can make. They have that one line where she can make any three things explode. And I'm like, oh, that's gonna come back to play. And it kind of does at the end, but I thought it was going to be here. I was hoping they'd open up the case and have no guns, and she would have to figure out how to manufacture things that were going to explode to throw at them as bombs. But instead, they just give them grenades. I don't know, a little less creative than I wanted it to be. And then we also get the bit here about them finishing each other's sentences, but obviously Buzz's failure as a leader results in the ship crashing and the fuel cell getting punted and all that stuff. And Zurg ends up with the fuel cell and Buzz up in the mega ship, and it is revealed that Buzz is actually old Buzz from the future. He realized that the fuel cell that they had could make him travel so far into the future. He's like, I'm so sad. I'm gonna fall when I got back. I gotta go into the future, and I went so far into the future. I somehow found alien tech, which we're just and I borrowed it, which means he stole an alien ship to a degree, which I'm like, we're going to gloss right past that. That's a whole act of this movie that we should have seen.
Yep. But and that's the worst thing is like a big twist reveal. That's only a big twist reveal because we could have never seen it coming, and we only could never see it coming because it doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense. Yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense. But of course, when he came back, I guess when he came back to the planet the first time, there were no aliens, and I forget did everyone die? I forget.
No, they all they caught him and arrested him for stealing the ship.
Right.
That's right.
And so, he immediately runs away and just turns the ship full blast forward.
That's right. Again, silliness, right? Like
but
quick conversation. It's not like you can throw Buzz Lightyear in the fucking brig for the next 20 years. Like we have 5 people living on this planet. We need all the help we can get.
But another question I have is the turnip as it's traveling through space in hyperspace or whatever they called it. Wouldn't it also be traveling super forward in time?
Yeah.
And therefore, like, they have no real world to come to. Like,
well, they'd come, but at this point,
the world would, but like all of their families and friends would be like dead. Thousands of years, you would imagine.
Way dead.
Yeah.
Super dead. Now it's
because they were in sleep. Yeah.
It's conceivable that the technology there and that particular source of fuel alleviated that. And I can only imagine, I'm just filling this in my head because they didn't know that him traveling originally in hyperspace was going to have that effect.
Okay.
So my thought process is
that makes sense.
They had a different way of doing it that alleviated that, which is not, I guess, scientifically possible, but it is a movie. So that I didn't question that so much. I just questioned sort of I don't love whenever writers get a little bit lazy and they're like, oh, well, he just has to go do this thing and someone is kind of trying to stop him. I'm like, dude, this is it's not like it's a foreign country that's like, you're a spy, you're here. It's like, that guy was your commanding officer. He just wants to bring you back because you stole a ship and probably have a conversation with you about what the hell happened. But I digress. He goes in the future, he steals the tech, he came back, and now he's James Brolin, which in my brain, I'm like, I love James Brolin. Obviously, Josh Brolin's dad. Josh Brolin gave us Thanos. How can you not like James Brolin? But part of me is like, why would you not get Tim Allen to be this character? He's older now. His voice sounds older now.
I imagine
you're
be
older. So right.
I imagine things did not break well with Tim Allen.
I'm guessing, but I think they should. I mean, I maybe they asked him to do this, and maybe he was like, I should have been the character to begin with. But Chris also, Evans as a younger Lightyear makes sense. But Tim Allen literally is like, I don't know how old he is, but he's pretty old at this point. He probably would sound age appropriate for this.
I feel like he said a lot of controversial things too, right? Like maybe Disney just wants to stay away from him.
Has he? I don't know. I
don't for sure.
Yeah, he's like a hardcore Trumper, right?
But, okay, so okay.
Yeah,
that's probably
like that's all true. I still think though, like to Nick's point, like if you're gonna have an older Buzz, like maybe they just don't have an older Buzz then. If like it's gonna, if you can't do the things like the dopest way possible, but
it's
especially
unfortunate
in the use case of this where it was kind of whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate. Obviously, if there's extenuating circumstances, I'm not going to judge Pixar or Disney for making a call for the betterment of their project. But I just think that if, in my opinion, in my brain, I was like, oh, it's an older Buzz. And when he opened his mouth, I expected it for some reason to be Tim Allen, and it wasn't. I was like, oh, okay. Well, missed opportunity, unfortunately. Neither here nor there. We chug right along, right? And Izzy's like, I'm not a Hawthorne. I'm doubting myself. My mom was a space ranger, and I'm terrified of space. Kind of, I mean, again, we're nitpicking here, right? But her character, in the shadow of her grandmother's footsteps, I love that she's inspired by her, but I wish they had pushed it to a point where she was like, maybe I don't want to be a ranger. Maybe I want to be a leader like my grandmother was. Maybe ranger's not for me. Maybe I want to do something else for the betterment of this. Because at the end of the day, when I stop and think about like what Hawthorne meant to the grander scheme of this colony, this nascent colony, she was the leader of it. She's the one that pretty much kept them going, right? So I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm just making that leap in logic based off the fact that she's the one they see in a commanding position. But in my brain, I'm like, she's the one telling everyone what to do because she's the highest level commander. Yeah, she had a fucking statue. So in my brain, I'm like, maybe you got through this thing, but you're like, you know what? Maybe space rangering isn't for me. Maybe I want a different calling. Like I want to be the leader of this group, like my grandmother was one day. But whatever. She goes up. She's like, I got to figure this out. And then she goes, oh, the ship. I forget how she remembers. Like, I'm a Hawthorne. I can figure this out. But she sees the little transporter thing on the ship and is like, we do have one option left. We're going to space. So she hits the thing. They all get in the plane. They go to space. They crush that last robot. Unfortunately, I feel bad for him. And they go out and about. They give Taika Waititi and Darby just a random side quest to do that doesn't seem like it needs to be done, but we spend a lot of time with them trying to figure out how to close a fucking door. Buzz escapes because the cat helps him. He shoots another blow dart at him because he's like, I like this Buzz better because you're making a lot of sense. Of course, Buzz has the moment with older Buzz where they could go back and fix everything, but he realizes it's time to move on. It's time to have a life. And this Buzz, he realizes, literally looking into the future, that if I keep along this path, this is what's going to happen to me. I thought that part was very well done. And then, of course, Socks is like, oh, I remember the old Buzz. I like old Buzz back. So with this fucking Terminator one eye, shoots a dart at old Buzz, knocks him out. They get into a fight.
I like that moment, too, of like, hey, we can go back and fix. I don't remember what the old Buzz says, but it was the phrasing was something along the lines of like, we can make everything right, and he's like, I am, and like he steals the cell,
the fuel cell.
Yeah.
Well, because he was like, you know, the main crux of the whole thing was he was like, they won't remember people that they didn't have because we're gonna go back and change it, and he's like, I can't let that happen because obviously he's formed a bond with Izzy at this point as well.
But I mean, not only that, like they've had kids and stuff. Like there's generations that have gone throughout this
colony,
doomed colony.
It's doomed for sure.
Yeah, it's doomed for sure.
I mean, let's put it this way. For sure, it's doomed.
Sure. You don't think they can just like keep living? Oh, I get.
There's a laser shield they need. At the end of it, these bugs are constantly attacking it, and Burnside's like, laser shield. I'd be like, this is giving me so much anxiety, I can't sleep, and I'm constantly pooping myself. That's what I would think if I lived in this place.
Well, they also,
I guess
they do have,
who cares?
They have the fuel. Oh, I guess maybe they don't.
They don't because they had to destroy it at the end, and Socks apparently can't. And Socks apparently can't remember 4 numbers.
That's the thing. We saw the ratio. Like, we could fucking remember it if we tried hard enough.
Yes, probably.
And you would think that you would have like a memory of. Well, I guess that's.
Socks is
he's AI, so he's not like a brain. So
he would have had the memory.
He's like, I've working this for 62 years. I can't get these fucking numbers out of my brain.
But it would be one thing if it was like, oh my god, this is an intense mathematical equation, and I don't have the hard drive capacity for it. But it really was just 4 numbers. It was like 22, 66, 33, and 10. It was just a mixture. It was like I mean, literally, it was like breaking into a vault in BioShock. It's not that fucking hard, right? Like, anyway, doesn't matter. For some reason, Buzz gets overwhelmed and finally realizes I need help, which means that Izzy has to go out into space. Cool sequence. The ship starts moving, of course, and there's a terrifying moment where she's trying to grab onto the bottom of the cool little spikes that are for whatever reason. The spikes are on every ship.
Antennas.
Is that why are there so many of them?
Because a lot of communications, they each are figuring something else out.
Everyone's cell phone has one antenna. Anyway, she saves socks, which is great.
This is such a fucked up thing for me to say. Fucked up thing I could possibly say here, but like, I kind of feel like Socks should have died here.
Damn, that is fucked up, Tim.
I feel like that. I only say that because I feel like it would like this movie having another emotional moment, like on the level of what's his name, the do from
Bing Bong.
Bing Bong, yeah.
Bing Bong, yeah. Like that type of moment, it would have been like, sure, we've seen it before, but we've seen the up moment.
Mm-hmm.
Got it here. I think that could have hit hard. I'm happy they didn't do it because I love Sonic forever happily. But
Tim, your call
even if he did die, he'd die our lives. See you guys later.
Wow, that was good. That was good. Your call's cutting out a little bit though, too.
Yeah, a lot. I don't know if you want to maybe restart Discord.
Nah,
he's frozen.
Okay. Nah, we'll go. We're almost done with the track. We're almost done. I'll keep going with the plot while Tim figures that out.
Wait, did Old Socks die?
Yes,
yeah,
Old
Socks
crushed, I think blows up. Gets crushed because he's trying to save. Remember, he's trying to save. Anyway, we'll keep going along. Izzy eventually gets into the airlock.
Is he really not coming back?
And she uses She uses the fun bit about the stealth to sneak around Zurg, and they overcome Zurg, and then she cuts his arm off. Gives Buzz his little blaster back. They escape, and Buzz ends up shooting with his blaster that she gave him. The self-destruct sequence, which was at 12 seconds. She uses I like how everyone had one of those little things on them so they could just tap it and get back to the ship. Super cool. They get back to the ship. They fly away, but Buzz gets blasted. And slides down, and I love how this whole thing's choreographed. He's sliding through, and right before he hits the shield that's holding in the atmosphere, he hits his helmet. It pops, and then it goes to silence. I always love when people do this.
Always good.
Battlestar used to do this all the time, and it was just so cool. You're like, yeah, that's how it really sound. That's how it really sound. Of course, he catches up with them. He gets into his ship, but Zurg is still alive, and Zurg's like, I'm gonna stop you. And he finally realizes the only way out of this is to actually do what I should have done to begin with and just eject, get out of this thing. He ejects, and as he does, we see the iconic wings on him for the first time, the jetpack. He uses that to stabilize the armadillo that the other kids are in, or the other team is in, and fly them down. How he didn't get burned up in the atmosphere, I guess that's just a really good suit.
It's a good suit.
This hyper advanced ship is on fire almost because the plating on the bottom of it is being heated by the re-entry. But whatever, his suit's great.
Nick, that was the hyper advanced suit or ship was damaged slightly. We all saw it get damaged slightly, that's how it works. There's one crack.
I love the allusion to Toy Story 1, the end where Buzz is flying, with RC and all that stuff, and like to hear him holding the ship as he goes down. I was like, that's cool.
That was fun. They go down, they land, and the day is saved. Let's see where are we at here. Oh, right, but of course, one last beat here. Everyone's like, we're celebrating, it's great, but then the one-armed robot comes back and gets shot right in the head by Burnside, who is like, listen, you did all this crazy shit. But guess what? It's the end of the movie. We got to wrap this bad boy up with a happiness. So we want to reinstate you as a ranger and bring the ranger program back. To which I'm like, wait, why did the ranger program go away to begin with? This is a colony that is constantly being attacked by alien presence. Why would they not have a standing military force that is on guard 24/7?
They did, and that's not what rangers are, right? They had the Z Force. Which I think,
they did have the Zap Force.
Zap Force, which to me, their suits look very similar to the Zurg things. Like, do these become those eventually? Or?
Probably, maybe in the future, like eons or thousands of years or millions of years in the future, this colony eventually turns into just the robot colony. Similar to how, let's be honest, human beings will. I, for one, welcome our AI overlords. And
did you hear about the sentient Google AI?
I did. It's terrifying, and I try not to waste a lot of time thinking about that because that's the kind of shit that keeps me up at night. Anyway, he goes, you can take any of your zapped people that you want, and he goes, no, I already have my team. I have this team of these people who are barely competent, but it's okay. So we're gonna make them into rangers.
They're
and it's
a team
cool.
now, Nick.
Yeah, they're a team, and so to infinity and beyond, they finally get that boom, boom, and they launch in their new ship to go explore uncharted territories and protect the world and all that jazz. And then we get a couple post-credit sequences, one with Burnside singing his office and a Buzz zaps behind it. One of those scary-ass crustacean bugs zaps behind me. He's like, laser shield. Again, I would be like, I have a leaky colon. This is how much anxiety I have constantly being under attack. But I guess we're just
you
okay
don't trust
here.
the laser shield enough.
No.
It does its job. It does its job every day.
I don't trust.
Shut off.
Yeah, I don't trust anything, dude.
Also,
I don't trust my phone to give me a reminder. Let's just put it that way.
If they had a laser shield, would they have not figured out a laser floor so they didn't have to deal with the vines anymore?
You would think so,
Joey,
but then
that's
you have
the
to
most
think.
absurd thing I've ever heard.
What happened? How are you gonna walk, Joey? How are you gonna walk?
What do you
Laser
think?
shoes.
A little yeah, you know those like moon shoes that they used to have, something like that, where a little hoverboard on your shoes. You just slide around.
So we get the 3 post-credit scenes here, right? We get the one joke bit of the laser shield, then we get the one joke.
We saw 3.
Yeah,
we did. Zurg comes back, and
we saw it like 2 weeks ago, and I don't think they had all of them in it.
Mid credits, we get the one that was just like a laser shield joke. Then we get the black and white credits, and after that, we got 2. So one of them was the robot giving directions. He was still giving directions.
Yeah, that didn't hit.
And then they did there was like the Disney logo and then the Pixar logo, and then there was another post credits that was you see Zurg floating in space, and his like eyes like turn on. And I think that I'm very let down by the post credits overall. I think that the most slam dunk thing we all expected was that we'd see Andy watching the movie or like something about Woody or whatever, and like I get why they wouldn't want to do it because it's so on the nose and expected, but I feel like this movie wasn't special enough to not have that stuff. And I think that having 3 of them, where 2 of them are whatever jokes, the laser shield thing was funny, but like that feels more like an end of the whole thing. It is just a joke reference. Like they should have put the Zurg one in the mid credits, just because I think it would have been more impactful. But at the same time, I feel like the way they had it, it's like, oh, I guess we're getting a Disney Plus show about this. Like it's the most teeing up for a potential Disney Plus show that I've seen them do so far. And I don't know that I really want to see that. So kind of a bummer.
When you said that, the first thing I thought was they should have cut. It should have been done, but right before the lights go up, we see a movie theater chair with Woody in it, and somebody runs back and goes, "Oh, there you are," and grabs him and
totally.
Takes it. That would have
been so cute.
Awesome.
That would have been so cute. Yep.
Yeah. But we didn't get that. We got some other comedy instead. That is Lightyear.
It is. So let's get into all of the fun things. We don't have any haikus today because we're recording this fresh off of watching it when it just came out. But we do have to rank RaguBagu. Da-da-da-da-da-da.
Ragu.
Da-da-da-da-da-da.
Bagu. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Rad Guys Talk Bad Guys for the Pixar in review. This list is long, and I'm going to read the whole thing. Right now, we got number 1, Lotsa from Toy Story 3. Number 2, the Prospector / Al from Toy Story 2. Sorry, Lotsa was from Toy Story 3. Newswater and Randall from Monsters, Inc. are 3. Number 4, Hopper. Number 5, Ernesto de la Cruz. Number 6, Evelyn and the Screenslaver from Incredibles 2. Number 7, Ercole Visconti from Luca. Number 8, Syndrome from The Incredibles. Number 9, Months and the Dogs. Number 10, Ego and Skinner from Ratatouille. 11 is Darla and the Barracuda and Marlin and everyone else from Finding Nemo. 13 is Woody and Sid from Toy Story 1. 14, Mom and Your Grandma from Turning Red. 15 is Gabby from Toy Story 4. 16 is Hardscrabble and the Roars from MU of Monsters University. 17 is Otto from WALL-E. 18 is Mordu and the Witch. 19, The Muddy Water and the Pterodactyls. 20 is Chicken Hubris from Cars. 21 is Jackson Storm and Sterling. 22 is Axelrod and the Lemons from Cars 2. 23 is Joy in San Francisco from Inside Out. That's got a little asterisk by it because it's not really antagonist. Number 24 is That Fear of Getting Lost in a Department Store from Finding Dory. Number 25, The Fuzz and the Curse in Gelatinous Cube from Onward. And number 26 is Manhole Covers from Soul.
I love us. I love us so much. So obviously it's Zurg. Right.
Yeah.
And
I
feel like it's pretty low. I don't know if it's as low as like Chicken Hubris.
What was 14?
14 was Mom and Your Grandma from Turning Red.
Where's Gabby?
Gabby's right underneath that at 15.
I would put her underneath somewhere around there.
So Hardscrabble and the Roars from Monsters University is under that. I think that this is better than that. Otto from WALL-E's next. I think that it's around there.
So 15 or 16? That's
I would say 15 is where I'd want to see it.
Let's do it.
You'd put it above Hardscrabble?
Yes.
I think the concept of it is very cool. I'm always a sucker for when you end up being your own worst enemy, which is what this was. And I think it's kind of cool. And shout out to James Brolin for stepping in and filling those Tim the Toolman Taylor shoes.
Yeah.
I'm
down for that. Let's do it.
Cool. So Zurg / old Buzz Lightyear is going in at 15. And that is your list.
I have no idea who Hard Scrabble is. And I thought it was
she's the like dragon dean.
Yeah. And now it's time to rank Lightyear against the rest of the Pixar movies. Currently, number 1, we have Coco. Number 2, Up. Number 3, Monsters, Inc. Number 4, Finding Nemo. Number 5, Incredibles 2. 6, Incredibles. 7, WALL-E. 8, Toy Story 3. 9, Inside Out. 10, Toy Story 2. 11, Toy Story 4. 12, Soul. 13, Toy Story. 14, Luca. 15, Rat-Tat-Tooie. 16, Onward. 17, Turning Red. 18, Finding Dory. 19, Monsters University. 20, Cars. 21, A Bug's Life. 22, Cars 3. 23, Good Dinosaur. 24, Brave. 25, Cars 2. Kevin Coelho, you have your hand raised.
I'd like to start, and I'd like to preface this by saying I actually enjoyed this movie. I thought it was fun. I have a lot, like I'm a huge Buzz Lightyear fan, and it's really cool to see him in full action like this. But honestly, I think I'd put this at like 23.
Wow.
Yeah. Kevin Coelho.
Because I'm looking at
coming in hot.
I know. I'm looking at A Bug's Life, and I'm like, there's no way. Like Bug's Life was way better. Even Cars. It's crazy. I'm blown away by this. Blown away, guys.
I'm exactly with you. Number 23. I think that Cars 3 is better than this, but I do think that for as good as this was, it is better than Good Dinosaur and Brave and Cars 2. So I'm going number 23. I will say, like, with the Lightyear, Toy Story's my shit. Like, I am purely a Toy Story person. Like, if it was up to me, all the Toy Stories would be way higher on this list. Having said that, I'm looking for a Lightyear spinoff. I want hype moments. I want things that make me go, let's fucking go. This movie did not make me say, let's fucking go once. And I'm pretty shocked by that, because I think that is like the lowest expectation for an action-based Lightyear movie. So yeah, I would go number 23. Andy Cortez would put it under Monsters University at number 20. Joey Noel, where you at?
I thought I was gonna have to like fight to get this lower, but apparently I'm happy to say that I'm not. I would probably put it at 22. I can't in good faith put this above Cars or A Bug's Life. But I don't think it should be below Cars 3.
Nick Scarpino, it all comes down to you. Where would you put Lightyear?
I knew you'd get to this question eventually. I did enjoy this movie, but I think it's tough because like from pretty much 18 down, these are they're good movies, but they're relatively forgettable, with the exception of I think Cars 2, which ended up being Cars 2 was the one we all hated, right? Yeah, okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think this is not as I would put it right below Cars probably, and I'd put it right below A Bug's Life. I think right above Cars 3. I think the movie is a well-made movie. I think it's some cool concepts, but I think ultimately they just didn't all come together to make something great. And I think Cars had a lot of heart, and I think A Bug's Life did too. And I think that's what I look for when I want to walk out of a Pixar movie. So I'd put it right at 22.
Cars 3 had a lot.
Right above Cars 3.
Had a lot of heart.
So that means me and Cav voted it at 23. Joey and Nick voted 22, and Andy at 20, which means it is number 22 in between A Bug's Life and Cars 3. You love to see it. Again, I think all of us enjoyed this movie. I would recommend people watch it. I don't think you need to rush to the theater to see it, but ironically, I feel like this is one of the ones where Disney maybe they should have fucked Pixar. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
no, I would have rather seen Turning Red in theaters.
Yeah.
I think this is one of those that we saw it in a non-Dolby theater, and I'm like, I actually wish we had seen this in Dolby, because I think the images alone in this movie, the cinematography and the animation alone is worth watching it in the theaters. And it's a good movie. All of these, there are some Pixar movies that I just don't care to ever watch again. If this is on TV or if this pops up, I will watch this again. It's just even for nothing else, just to see it on my OLED, just to see how that translates over, because it's stunning. I mean, it's similar to how we talked about Maverick. We're like, Maverick's a silly movie, it's a crazy movie, but it's a ride. This has a lot of good stuff that I think you need to watch in theaters. So I would say go see it in theaters.
So there we go. Like I was saying, we are doing our Thor rewatch. Episode 1 is live already. Next week, Thor 2. Following week, Thor 3. And then it's the big one, Thor 4, Love and Thunder, which we got to see the trailer for before this. Got me extra hyped. I can't wait for it. But anyways, thank you for hanging out for Pixar in Review. We'll return for the next Pixar movie that, off the top of my head, I don't even know what it is.
I don't think we have one yet.
Huh. Interesting.
They've got
times.
a movie coming. Like they've announced one movie, right? I don't know.
Well, anyways, love you guys. Bye.